going on, everybody? We are back for another edition of Podcast 129. We have another loaded show tonight. We're going to be talking about the new college football playoff rankings that came out last night. We're going to talk like last week's games. I guess that's week 10 recap, followed by week 11 preview. Got another loaded slate this weekend. Another weekend that's kind of doesn't have a lot of the marquee matchups. There's a big marquee matchup in the Big 12 we're going to talk about. But another week that some teams that might be pretenders in the new rankings might get knocked off. And these kind of weekends where there's not a lot of the marquee games, they tend to produce the best results for us as fans watching. So to my left is Flu Game Hunter Waldrop. Hunter has been sick this week. He is going to be on the DL as far as the commentary goes. He's going to chip in where he is comfortable, ready whenever he wants to, and tell me and Tyler what we're saying is wrong. And to my left on the screen, if you're watching, but to my right in person, it's Mr. Tyler Vaughn. Tyler's technology sucks. I'm the only one in this house with good technology. I never tend to have problems, but Tyler does in his room. So he is going to be my wingman tonight, right next to me. Tyler, how are you, man?
Fantastic. As good as I can be.
Good deal. Good deal. Hunter, you got anything to say before we move forward?
Yeah, just glad to be here. Sorry for the weak voice, everybody. It was a lot worse yesterday. A lot worse. It's been a long 72 plus hours, but we're here for the love of the game, and literally that's about it. And for the love of my fellas right here on the right-hand side. Not going to talk a whole lot, and if I just leave mid-conversation, it's probably because I have to cough, sneeze, or whatever, so you guys just keep it rolling.
Absolutely. So with that, I think it's time to get into the rankings we're going to start with. Hunter's got our pretty slides up and rolling. Oh, it's first. Tyler, how about you do this? Hunter's down for the count. I'm hosting. I got a lot on my plate right now. How about you take over this part?
Yeah. Everybody go give us a follow on social media. Give us a shout. We appreciate everybody's following and your subscription on YouTube. It's free of charge, and a lot of people are listening and not subscribed. So all you got to do is hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't take too much time out of your day. We would greatly appreciate that. I know that Jake always says he's going to hold it down on Twitter during the weekend. He's working on it. Hunter always got the Instagram rolling. There's always a new story on the Podcast 129 Instagram page. And the TikTok, moving on past that, give us a follow.
Absolutely. So here we are. Last night, Reese Davis released the first edition of the college football playoff rankings. And I'm going to start with this. I think personally, and I don't think none of us have talked about this. Hunter, me and you may have texted about it a little last night, but we haven't really had much chatter about this outside of the podcast outside of the podcast. So I was kind of pleased with it. I feel like over the past several years, even dating back to the 14 playoff, every ranking that would come out, especially at the end of the year when it's time for it to be the actual playoff, but even before then, like the weeks leading up to that, there's always some sort of complaint. This, I didn't really have much nitpicking to do personally. I thought they did the best they could have done personally. There's a few things that you can always bitch and complain about, I guess, and some fans of certain teams are probably a little upset. The first thing I'll kind of go through some of my thoughts. Number 25, Tennessee. That was the first name released last night. 3-loss team, and the reason I wanted to bring them up is because to me, when I first saw that, I was like, okay, they're taking into account, and Hunter, I think we talked about this a little bit. They said preseason they were going to factor in strength of schedule, that was going to matter. Tennessee's 3 losses 2 of them are at home, but they have a loss to Georgia, Alabama, who are 2 of the top 5 teams, and then Oklahoma, who is the number 12 team in the country. Outside of that, they've won all their games. So to me, that was just a showing. And sometimes there are 3-loss teams in the top 25. I'm not saying that's new, but it shows. I think there's other teams that could have been in that number 25 spot that weren't there, but Tennessee's strength of schedule is there. And all 3 of those games were close. You can maybe argue that the Alabama game was not close, but they were, right on the edge of beating Georgia. Tennessee's season is so close to being completely opposite end of the spectrum. The Georgia game, the kid makes the field goal that beat Georgia. And then Alabama, Joey Aguilar doesn't throw that pick at the half, maybe a different story. And then Oklahoma losing at home with several opportunities to win. So, yeah, just Tennessee's a very intriguing team to me. A team I was very high on. Thought they were going to roll against Oklahoma. The next thing I wanted to talk about, let's go to Utah. Utah's number 13 team in the country through their rankings, which I don't have a problem with necessarily. Their wins have been great. They're a team that their wins, they look really good. They execute well. Their defense stands out. Their losses, though, I know that their 2 losses are BYU and Texas Tech, but those losses are atrocious. It's not like that they lost 31-30 at the buzzer. They lost by a field goal to BYU, but BYU had control of that game for the entire time. It was never Utah, in my opinion, at least. And it's just very intriguing that there's teams behind them like Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech, Virginia, even a team like Michigan. Like I don't. If you told me to rank like the teams, let's say 13 through 25, like before the rankings came out last night, Utah would have been probably between 20 and 25 for me. Maybe I'm crazy. And I also have a bunch of resentment towards Utah in the gambling world. But besides that, their losses, when the eyes have been on them, when a bunch of eyes have been on them, they have not produced at all. And they haven't looked great. But their wins have been good. Like they beat the hell out of Colorado. So they've kind of been rolling. They beat Cincinnati, who was a ranked team last week. The Big 12 is crazy, but Utah is just a very intriguing team to me. Another one, intriguing team, 2 teams I kind of want to talk about. Miami and Notre Dame. Everybody here knows that I'm a Miami homer just because of Carson Beck. I love Miami. Do I still think there's a path? Yes, because they are only the number 18 team in the country, and the ACC is crazy. The point I want to bring up about that is the committee told us last night, with Notre Dame being 10, Miami being number 18, that if both teams went out and go 10-2, regardless of the head-to-head matchup earlier this season, if they're the first 2 or they're the last 2 teams, one of them has to be in, Notre Dame's going. I don't necessarily agree with that. I do see that Notre Dame's losses are way better than Miami's losses, but there still is the head-to-head. And, yeah. Hunter, you got anything to say on that?
Yeah, so I am always going to find something to complain about with these. I always do. But I will agree with you, Jake, that this one was better than years past. However, my biggest critique is that they use different metrics for different teams. I don't feel like it was consistent throughout. So, like 1 through 3, they just used the eye test. They didn't use the strength of schedule. They didn't use the strength of record or the analytics that they said they were going to use. They just went straight eye test. But they contradict themselves by putting BYU at 7 and Georgia Tech at 17. And the reason I say that is because BYU and Georgia Tech have both only played one team power rated in the top 30 analytics wise. I'd say they have around the same strength of schedule. So I don't think that should be that big of a gap between undefeated BYU and one-loss Georgia Tech. The committee also showed that they don't care if you lose early on in the season. They just showed that if you lose later, screw you. And they really did that to the ACC after this past week. And then the head-to-head thing, Jake, you brought it up. There's no way Texas and Oklahoma should be back-to-back, and Miami and Notre Dame should have 8 spots in between them. I think that's just too much. Like, I really don't have a problem with them ranking Notre Dame ahead, but, like, that's one of those where they just use the analytics on, like, the eye test rather than some of the other metrics that they said they were going to use. It just didn't feel consistent throughout with some of those things. So those are my biggest critiques. But the biggest winner is the Big 12. Guys, Utah at 13, they don't have a lot of losable games left. Texas has to play on the road at Georgia. They have to play Texas A&M. Oklahoma still has to play Alabama at Alabama. They got Mizzou. They got LSU. So I think both of those teams are going to lose at least one more, maybe 2 more. Notre Dame is 1 slip up away from being out of the playoff altogether. And Oregon, they got Iowa, USC, and Washington all left on their schedule. And then, as we know, the Big 12 can beat each other up. So Utah might not even have to play in the Big 12 championship game, and the league might get 2 teams in, which I found very astonishing, considering they said they were going to take strength of schedule and strength of record and like your losses and wins into account. And I feel like they just used the eye test with Utah. But Utah could get in as a at-large bid, which I would have never thought would be a thing for the Big 12 unless it was like 2 undefeated teams in the conference championship game. But like a 2-loss Utah could get an at-large bid, which is just crazy to me. Not saying I'm necessarily against it because I think they're a good team, but I just would have never imagined that. And then the biggest loser is the ACC. They're only getting 1 team in, and that's just how it's going to be. So I'm not going to continue to ramble. So y'all go ahead.
Yeah.
My big thing that I want to say that I agree with you, Jake, in the fact that there's not a lot to complain about here. I think they hit it on the nail on the head for the most part. My big thing is I think Oregon might be a little too low on this ranking. I don't see Texas Tech or BYU beating Oregon. So I think them at 9 is a little bit of, again, maybe it's the analytics or maybe it's the eye test. I don't know what it is exactly, but I think that I expected them to be right in that 7 spot. And then Texas at 11. Again, I just don't see it. I don't see them being the number 11 team in the country. They are playing well now, but I'm not there. But that's why they get paid the big bucks to make this happen. So I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. But those are the only 2 teams that I kind of scratched my head about a little bit. I was waiting on Texas to show up around the 15 mark. But obviously they are in that top 12 and they're slotted to make the playoffs. So I don't know. Those are the 2 things that I had a question mark about. But otherwise, I think they did really well on this ranking.
Yeah. So to bring up Oregon, I'm glad you brought that up because they were the team that I wanted to bring up and kind of present a question to you guys. Do you think they're too low? Do you think they're too high? And at first glance, I was like, I don't know about this. It kind of confuses me, but it kind of makes sense because Oregon's best win, Penn State kind of screwed them with being really bad. We saw what that has kind of molded into. So that win is not as big as it was. So at this point now, who was Oregon's biggest win? They got beat by Indiana. And the reason I think they're behind BYU and Texas Tech is because BYU and Texas Tech both have wins over Utah. They have better wins than Oregon. And I might not agree with that, but the committee really seems to love Utah. So they value those wins over those 2 wins for BYU and Texas Tech over Utah more than Oregon's best win. That's what I took it as. So, yeah, I was going to ask y'all, do you think they're too low? But you already answered that. Hunter, do you have any takes on Oregon?
I don't hate it. The separation between 9 and 7 isn't that big except a home field game, but this is the first weekend in November. So I think it'll all sort itself out, especially since 7 and 8 play each other.
Yeah.
And Oregon's also got a really tough stretch. I mean, they have 3 ranked opponents to end their season. So it's all going to sort itself out. Their best wins over 5-3 Northwestern on the road. That's record wise, but Josh Pate, I don't know if you guys listened to his show last night. Obviously, I've been coked up at the house, so I haven't really had a lot of other things to do. So I watched his live show last night, and he says that he doesn't necessarily disagree with the ranking, but that Oregon's not getting enough credit for their Penn State win because he firmly believes that Penn State, if they would have beat Oregon, that Penn State would have never lost to UCLA. They would have never went on this losing streak because that Oregon literally killed Penn State. Like they killed them. And that it was more than just one game, and that they're not getting enough credit for, James Franklin would still be the coach there and all those other things, which I think is a very interesting take that you can make the argument for, but obviously that's not what the committee's in the business of doing. So, but it's all going to work itself out as far as, all of this stuff is, but yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah. A few more things I wanted to bring up. I kind of appreciated They gave some teams their flowers, in my opinion, like Iowa being ranked at number 20. Did not expect that. Did not. Maybe 24, 25, I would have been like, okay, but 20, that's high. That tells us they like these teams. Washington, me and Hunter texted about this. The Huskies finally made it into the top 25. And there is a path. They go 10-2, and that rivalry week, they play Oregon. They win that game. That's a playoff game. There is a path where that is a legit thing that could happen. Pittsburgh is now in the top 25. They're a sneaky team in the ACC right now. Other than that, the G5, that was a thing that I was kind of maybe not confused about, but there's not a G5 team in the top 25. Ultimately, I think it's going to be the winner of the American. But very interesting that there wasn't one team. Like you could throw Memphis in there, but they weren't. But other than that, that's all I got, unless you guys have anything else. Good conversation about the new rankings.
Yeah, I got two more things. The first one being that I guess I got three things. The only team on this list that cannot make the playoff anymore is Tennessee. That is what I was told last night, is that the only team that is currently ranked right now that cannot make the playoff is Tennessee. The second thing is that Pittsburgh is going to be the biggest team to watch as far as how this playoff shapes out. And that's not just them winning, but that's them, like how they're going to dictate their next three games. They got Notre Dame at home. They got to go on the road to Georgia Tech, and I believe they play another ranked team to end. They play Miami.
Yeah,
they got three ranked games left, two of them at home. Like they can really shake out how this playoff's going to look, depending on the outcomes of those games. And then lastly, the G5 just needs to have their own playoff.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Everybody would watch it.
I would love it, but I hate it because they say they kept ranking until they hit a G5 team. I mean, that could be Team 50 for all we know, and for all we know, who's to say they're not just throwing out a team, that they didn't publicize that process. So a little concerning to me, but that's all I have on the rankings.
Absolutely. So moving forward here. Oh, my bad. Me and Hunter are not. You got it. Actually, I got it. All right, on to the Week 10 recap. My bad, Hunter. First game we got up. Number 9, Vanderbilt, goes on the road to Texas. Texas, a team that hadn't played in home since the beginning of September. I've had a couple scares on the road the past couple of weeks, notably against Florida, Kentucky, snuck past those. And despite what the scoreboard says, Texas dominated this football game for 3 quarters. And it started on the first play of the game when Texas Arch Manning hits Wingo on a screen, and he takes on the house call. And at that point, from there forward, Texas defense, they smothered Vanderbilt. The crowd was involved. The offense was moving the ball efficiently. And then Pavia, as always, when there's a plus sign next to his name, he's going to find a way to cover. That's what he did in the fourth quarter. Biggest takeaway for me on this is Texas offense. Arch starting to figure things out. And I think Sark and that offensive staff is starting to figure out, like, this guy can't push the ball downfield. We're going to have to find ways to extend the run game with the screen game, and the screen game's got to work, and they're getting the ball to Wingo. They're getting the ball to Mosley, and it's working. Arch threw for over 300 yards, but I would love to know the portion of passes that were behind the line of scrimmage and, 5 yards past the line, down the field. Which is fine. I mean, that tells me they know what they have. They're not trying to make Arch be something that he's not, and that's fine. And with a defense like that, with Anthony Hill and Colin Simmons, guys like that, and their defense smothers you. Their defense has been legit all year. Even when at the lowest of low, their defense hadn't really been a problem. In the fourth quarter, yeah, they gave up some points, but they only gave up 10 through 3 quarters. And it was like I said, a domination of a game for the first 3 quarters. It really was, if you watched it. Vandy couldn't get it going. Kit couldn't get anything going defensively or offensively, sorry. And as far as like outlook for these two teams, Texas, bye week this week. Georgia's got a trip to Starkville. They come to Athens next Saturday, and that's a playoff elimination game for them. And Vandy, I know they have couple more tough matchups, but if they went out, I think Vandy's in. I think 10-2 Vandy gets in. with their schedule and what they've done and how they've done it. Very tough path for both teams, and that's what's going to be so intriguing about the SEC in the month of November is because, yes, throughout the season we've talked about how stacked the SEC is, how 1 through 13 can be a playoff team, but now we're getting to the point where each week there's a playoff game, whether it's head-to-head or against somebody else. They're like, look at Texas A&M, Missouri. I know we'll get into that, but A&M, they're undefeated. They're almost a lock for the playoff, but Missouri has to win this Saturday or they're done. So very intriguing, the SEC as a whole, but I'll open up the floor to you guys. Tyler, you got anything on this
one? I just hope that one of my roommates from up in Kentucky are listening to this. You try to give me a lot of shit on my Texas pick. So that's all I gotta say. I mean, you guys you need to realize that I'm a ball knower. Other than that, Texas almost let this one slip away, but I don't think that's of my concern right now. I think Texas is playing its best football of the season at the moment. It's like Arch got concussed and figured out how to play football. He's starting to play well. He's starting to move the ball down the field, and that's a good sign for them. I'm excited to see them play Georgia. I think that's going to be a hell of a game. I think it was going to be a hell of a game regardless of if Arch was ready to go. Now I think it's going to be even better. Pavia, couldn't get it done. And this was that piece of humble pie that we were talking about last week that I think you needed. So I think for him, he's got to respond to this in order to keep his status as the badass that he thinks he is. So we'll see how they respond.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring up Pavia because I think the recipe to beating Vanderbilt right now is they can't play from behind. If you go out and hit them in the mouth early and get up 7-10-0, they are behind schedule immediately offensively because that's not their game plan. They don't have an offensive scheme and strategy to play from behind necessarily because they like to go so slow. They like to get 3 yards of play and get to 3rd and 1, and then they have 2 plays to get a first down, and then we do it again on the next set of downs. So I think if they can get out in front of teams, like if they played Vandy, same thing with Alabama, played Georgia. Gosh, I'm sorry, that makes no sense. If they played Georgia, when they played Alabama, teams like that, teams that are better than them, their recipe, to me at least, is to get out in front of these teams because they can't play from behind. So, yeah. Hunter, you got anything?
Yeah, I got a few. Sorry, fellas. I got a few points on this one. The first being Sark's in his bag. You could really tell this game that this guy was dialing it up, and we had some question marks about him through 9 weeks of football. Same with Arch Manning, obviously, but Jake, you brought up the point that they kind of realized what they got, and he's finding ways to get his playmakers the ball in space. So that was huge. That was the worst tackling performance I've ever seen out of a SEC team or at least this season from Vanderbilt. That was not Vanderbilt football. They were not taking the right angles. They weren't doing the fundamental things, and I think that plays just as much of a key role as their offensive scheme, right, Jake? Is they don't have the talent everywhere, but they have the discipline, they have the mechanics and everything else, and that's kind of what makes them hard to beat sometimes on the defensive side of the football, and that didn't show up on Saturday. I didn't get to watch this game live. There was no television at the tailgate I was at the Georgia-Florida game on Saturday, so I'd had plenty of time over the past 72-plus hours to watch this one, and those were the two things that stood out to me was that Vanderbilt's defense, very poor tackling, undisciplined, and then Steve Sarkisian was in his bag, and I can see Arch is getting confident, and I think Texas could get in at 9-3, guys. If they beat Georgia next week, I mean they're going to be well within the top 10, right? And then they lose to A&M at home, but it's by 3 points or 7 points. How far do they get dinged?
Yeah.
So definitely a scenario out there where 9-3 Texas could get into the playoff. But Jake, you also brought up a really good point about Vanderbilt playing from behind. They can't do it. And there's another team that we're going to talk about in a little bit that's the same as Vanderbilt. And as soon as they get behind and they're having to chuck it around the yard, that's not their game, and they're cooked. Wow. But Yeah, that's what I had on this one, fellas.
Absolutely. All right, on to our next game. Recapping. OU, Hunter's darling, Tyler's enemy, goes on the road to Knoxville. Number 18 at number 14. Oklahoma slips this one away. This was one of my favorite bets of the week. Picks of the week, Tennessee. I thought for sure that they would handle Oklahoma, that their defense would be ready and smother John Mateer, force him to use his arm, and that they would just dominate. I really did. I really thought this was a spot where this number was too low. There's no way that they're right now and where it stands. Vegas is saying that Tennessee and Oklahoma are equal on a neutral site, and that's exactly what it was. Oklahoma was the better team in this one. Learned a few things about Tennessee, and for me, that is when they can't run the ball in that offense. We talk about it a lot. Their tempo in that offense, yes, they got Aguilar, and they have guys like Brazel on the outside and several playmakers, and they have the past several years, like going back to Brew McCoy, Squirrel White, guys like that. Their recipe has been, yes, we're going to get the ball to those guys and spread things out, but we're also going to have 7 people in the box, our receivers way out wide, and we're going to be able to run the football. That's what we're going to establish first. And they couldn't do that on Saturday. Oklahoma did a tremendous job of stopping the run. I think they only allowed like 60 yards rushing total. And that forced Aguilar to throw the ball, and the game was a little bit more in his hands, especially in the second half, especially in that fourth quarter. And Aguilar, to me, I guess I've kind of been blinded by, and I guess this is how it goes as a college football fan, right? Like you're a fan and you watch an opposing player, regardless of position, play, and they play good against you, then you're like, okay, this guy's really good. He's going to be a hooper, baller, whatever. But especially when your team's like good, like I'm a Georgia fan. Georgia, I would say, is pretty good, and you watch them. It's like, okay, he did this to Georgia's defense, which early on at that point in the season, I had no clue Georgia's defense was that bad, this bad, what it is now. I really thought Joey Aguilar was one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC, and I'm not saying that he isn't, but there's a lot of times where he is way off key on throws. He's way off on timing, and some of the decisions he makes, I don't necessarily agree with. I believe he threw 2 picks. So, yeah, I think that Tennessee, I don't think Aguilar is their guy that's going to take them to the promised land. Obviously, they are out of the playoff picture now. They're still ranked, which is good. I think they deserve to be ranked just because their losses are Georgia, Oklahoma, and Alabama, 3 of the top 12 teams in the country. And as far as Oklahoma goes, man, even another reason I thought this game was so big for Tennessee, or such a good spot for Tennessee, is Mateer just hadn't been the same. And that still hadn't changed for me. I don't think Mateer is the same that he was 6 weeks ago. I really don't think so. He just doesn't look the same as a passer, but he's still using it. He's using his legs. I think he rushed for almost 100 yards, maybe rushed for over 100. And they find that offense, they finally figured out a run game. I think it's Blaylock is the guy's name, is the run back. He has had maybe back-to-back or 3 consecutive weeks with 100 yards on the ground. 3 consecutive weeks that he has had a tremendous game on the ground, and it's yielded success for them, especially like going on the road to Knoxville, Neyland Stadium, one of the hardest places to play. Like you have to establish the run when you go on the road in the SEC. I feel like that's the most like generic thing you can say about SEC football, but that was a concern for me because Oklahoma hadn't proven that to me yet so far in the season. And that's exactly what they're starting to do and figure that out. And at the perfect time to keep their season alive, when Mateer's not healthy, the offensive line and the run game, everything's starting to click for them offensively, but or maybe not offensively, but in the run games aspect of it, which is like keeping their season alive. So good for Oklahoma. Tennessee's dead. And like we talked about, Oklahoma still got a very tough path. But hey, anything can happen. And Mateer, I feel like he's going to just continue getting healthier, I would assume, at this point. So, yeah, that's what I got on this one. Tyler, you got anything?
I got to watch a little bit of this game. I was really more watching the World Series Game 7. But I think that Oklahoma was able to establish that, their offense is still legit, even though Mateer's not playing well. Tennessee, I think that this was a game that you needed to win. You're at your home turf. You're doing the whole blackout thing, and you got to find a way to get that game taken care of and find a way to win. I think that they just let an opportunity go here, and I think that happens a lot to the University of Tennessee. Still not completely sold on Oklahoma, but this win does kind of kind of telling me that they are pretty legit. So we'll see how things shake up. I think that I know that they're going to need some help to get into the playoff, but we'll see how things shake up.
Hunter, you got anything on your boys?
Of course I do. Yeah, so Jake and I kept exchanging one word text this past Saturday, and the word was drugs, but it was, or heroin, because we just can't quit teams. And I came on this show last week and I picked Tennessee. On Saturday morning, I texted the boys and I said, sorry, guys, I'm on heroin. I just can't quit it. I'm addicted to Oklahoma, making an official flip. The MVP of this game was Tate Sandell, the kicker, pictured right there. He made 2 55-yarders, made a 51-yarder, just massive leg and wearing shorts out there. It was kind of funny. I think that goes he got SEC special teams player of the week, but a lot of people are talking about other things, but I just want to make sure he got his credit there. G5 Joey finally became G5 Joey, or Joey Aguilar became G5 Joey because he has not been playing like G5 Joey. He's been playing like Joey Aguilar. But he puts a black helmet on again, thinks he's back at App State. And the biggest concern I had for Tennessee coming into this year was Joey Aguilar turning the ball over. He had 2 interceptions, and he fumbled the ball on a strip sack that I think was the ultimate game changer. Mason Thomas with probably the most badass return strip sack fumble I've ever seen. Stiff arming a guy for 20 yards and then like pulls a hamstring and just limps down the sideline to get in. Excuse me, guys. But Jake, my biggest thing from this game was that Mateer's confidence is slowly coming back because in the past few weeks he just hasn't had the rushing attack like that made him a threat with his legs, and obviously he hasn't been able to throw the ball the same. Like he only threw it for 159, about 5 yards per attempt, and he had a pick and no intercept, or he had 1 pick, no touchdowns, but he ran it for 80. And he hasn't ran it for 80 since he came back from injury. And I think that's such a big deal, like getting his confidence back up at the right time. And so as far as Texas, I know we just talked about them, and then Oklahoma moving forward, like, guys, November is the most crucial part of the season for these teams. And it's like a new season started, and they're both trending upwards at the right time and 2 gotta have it spots, right? Like, gotta have it spots and backs against the wall. Oklahoma coming off a home loss, Texas coming off 2 overtime games that they probably should have lost, but yet they both get them done. And then I know I just said Texas can make the playoff at 9-3, and we've been harping on this one with Oklahoma since the preseason. But I mean, what if Oklahoma goes and beats Alabama next week on the road? They're going to be well within the top 10, and then they split Mizzou and LSU. There's a chance there. Or let's say that they lose to Alabama. They finish 9-3. They win their last 2, and there's some help in front of them. Like, I don't think it's out of the realm because they're already in front of Utah, right? So there's not a lot of teams that can jump them, is what I'm saying. They control their own destiny. The only thing that would screw either one of those teams is the ACC and the G5 champion getting in, because that cut line is like 14th right now, and that's where Virginia's ranked. So, but great game for the Sooners, much needed bye week, and then they travel to Alabama. So we'll see. As far as Tennessee goes, their defense, like if you let Oklahoma score 30 on you, you're pretty bad. Just going to say it at home too. And then Joey Aguilar turned the ball over. Jake, you did a great job talking about the Russian attack. They only had 63 yards rushing. Their leading rusher only had 38. And that's just not Tennessee football. That's not going to get it done, especially against an Oklahoma defense that is good against the run. And they're good. I think they're still a good defense. I know they let up like 40 to Ole Miss, but like, who hasn't let up 40 to Ole Miss this year, right? Genuinely. So we'll see what the Vols do. I know that they have one big one left against Vandy to end the year. I don't think they'll get into the playoff, obviously, but still would like to have that one and finish the year 9-3. But your boy has a ticket for Tennessee under 8.5 wins. Please come home. That's all I gotta say.
Absolutely. Good stuff there on Oklahoma and Tennessee. On to the next one. I think those were the two biggest games of the week. Now we travel out to Texas. SMU, home, dog, big time in this. Not very big time. I think it was a 10-point spread. But Miami goes on the road. Not a lot of people talking about this as an upset spot. Sure enough, Rhett Lashley, moments after signing an extension and getting his name off the board and the coaching carousel, gets the job done at home against the number 10 team in the country. What a series of events for Rhett Lashley as a coach, signing a big extension, getting his bag, and then doing this. And as a fan, I would be freaking pumped because SMU, they were a playoff team last year, and we kind of knew they weren't going to be the same SMU as last year. Kevin Jennings hadn't been the quarterback they necessarily saw last year all season. But I would imagine that a lot of people are a Rhett Lashley guy, a fan. I don't see why you wouldn't love that guy. He signs an extension. We're like, yes, we got our coach back. And then the next day or hours later, whatever, you take down the number 10 team in the country, who's been one of the most talked about teams all year on your home turf. That is awesome. Good win for SMU. Carson Beck, man, and that offense, I know I've been a Carson Beck guy all year, and I'm not done yet. All right, there's still a path because ACC is wide ass open.
Drugs,
exactly. Yeah, there you go. But for some reason, when Carson Beck and that offense, they get in the red zone, I believe both of his picks were in the red zone. I don't know if they go away from the run game too much and try to fit things in close down the goal line. That's what happened on one of the picks I know that happened on the goal line. But that is the biggest issue in my eyes from Miami offensively is their red zone offense and the red zone issues, having trouble punching it in and having trouble having success in any sort of pass game inside the 20. Defensively, Miami thought they played a great game. I know Jennings torched them through the air, but Bain and the other guy, his name's hard to pronounce, those two guys really hold up that front seven for Miami defensively at stopping the run and containing the quarterback. I don't think Jennings had positive yards rushing in this. So great win for SMU. Look, they're second in the ACC right now, tied for second. So there's still a path for them. I haven't really looked at their schedule and what they got left. Both teams still have a path. I'm not going to say the playoff, but to the ACC championship, just because the ACC this year is starting to look a lot like the 2024 Big 12 conference. Tyler, you got anything on this?
I said it once. I said it before. Miami, welcome to hell with Carson Beck at quarterback. Really needed touchdown pass in a really big spot. Andy gave it right away. I'd be lying if I said I was shocked at this one. I mean, no, I wasn't expecting it going in, but I wasn't necessarily like, holy shit, Miami lost this. No. I said earlier, once it happens, once Chris Paul loses the game, it all kind of starts to fall apart, and here it goes, starting to unwind even more. So, not really a lot to say about this one. I think that Miami's not as good as we thought they were.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no. So, I went back, watched this game last night, and dude, how did Miami lose this game? How did they fathom this? It's just bad coaching, in my opinion. It's just genuinely bad coaching. They reflect Mario Cristobal. Bro, you had SMU on a 3rd and 19, running clock after a sack and no timeouts, and you found a way to lose. And that was within the 2 minutes. I mean, they were on the minus 50, and I gotta give a shout out to Kevin Jennings. I know he was a little tired, or not tired. I'm tired. I'm very tired. He was not healthy. He was kind of limping around a little bit. Definitely not 100%, but the guy, he needed this one. I feel like nobody's really given the guy a lot of respect since the playoff game against Penn State last year. And, I mean, not that people have had a lot of reason to just glaze the guy, but he needed this one on the national stage. So shout out to them. I think the better coach team won. And yes, Jake, you brought up a good point about the defense, but this goes back to the coaching thing with Miami with me. In overtime, the defense just gave up. SMU ran the ball up the middle every single play, and it didn't look like the same Miami defense. As far as Carson Beck goes, I know that's a topical player on this podcast. One interception off a young receiver's hands. I don't usually blame those on the quarterback, but and then the second one, just a miscommunication with the receiver, Malachi Tony, probably would have been a touchdown if they were on the same page, and who knows where this game goes. But once again, that's a young receiver who's 17 years old, but I think it just goes back to lack of discipline and lack of coaching. Like, if you're consistently not on the same page with your guys, that it just comes from up top, in my opinion. So I think that this one, I mean, we do this with Miami every year. I feel like, September, October, we're all in, top 5 team in the country. November comes around, they start getting into a thick of a conference schedule, and they start showing their true colors. I think they're going to lose at least one more. They got a back-to-back road spot at Virginia Tech and at Pitt, 2 cold weather places to play in, obviously. And another big reason, I mean, Tyler said it perfectly. He said he wasn't expecting it, but he wasn't shocked by the result. And I agree with that. That's a perfect way of describing it. That was Miami's first road game out of the state of Florida all year, and we were in November. So not necessarily shocking, but did not expect it. And I do expect them to lose at least one more, probably to Pitt at the end of the year. But, man, this could be a situation where they give up. We see teams give up throughout the year. I don't think they will just totally flat out give up, but I think their season's dead. They're going to need a lot of help from some other teams if they want a chance to make the playoff.
Yeah, 100%. I'm obviously going to be the guy that doesn't give up on the dream yet. I think that Carson Beck is a great quarterback, has a great future ahead of him. But I think he is a basket case when it comes to mental characteristics, I guess you could say. Moving on. Next game we got here, we'll start moving a little bit more on the recap, a little bit more quicker on the recap. We called it. We freaking called it. Georgia Tech, number 8 team, 8-0. Top-ranked team in the ACC, goes on the road to NC State. NC State just cruising along as a mediocre team with a very electric quarterback that not a lot of people knew about until Saturday night. CJ Bailey. Hollywood Smothers, a running back for NC State, didn't even play in this game. That was a big name that I expected to see, and he didn't even play. Didn't even know that before the game, as like somebody who watched it. Tech, man, offense have no issues with. The thing with Georgia Tech offensively, it's going to go. They're going to go as far as Haynes King takes them, and that's in the run game, and that's in the passing game. That offense runs through him. Defensively, though, I think we kind of got blinded by a couple of the Tech games they played in. Like Wake Forest put up 30 points on them. Who else? Colorado. I think they only gave up like 20 points early on in that opener to Colorado. But Colorado also kicked themselves in the foot a lot and screwed themselves. Like, they were in a position to put up a lot of points. And I feel like throughout the year, Georgia Tech, their defense hadn't necessarily been there. And once they've gotten up on teams have kind of like they've given up, I guess. But I think that their defense has got a lot of work to do. And that's my biggest concern with Tech moving forward. And I don't think that Tech is a team. They never should have been ranked number 8. I really don't think so. Like, I think they're good, and I'm not being like biased, but I don't think that they're going to beat any of the teams in the top 7 until you get to BYU and Texas Tech. I think they can compete with those guys. But outside of that, from Ole Miss up, I don't think they're competing with them. I don't think they're on the same playing field as them. But at some point, this had to happen. It kind of takes away, as a Georgia fan, the excitement of the game in Mercedes-Benz, just because it would have been really cool if Georgia was 9-2 or 10-1, going to Mercedes, and Tech's 11-0 and probably in the top 5. Like, that would have been really freaking cool. But it's still going to be good because it's most likely going to be a spot where Tech has to win for playoffs implications. I mean, they might not have to win the game. If they drop another one, they have to win the game. But we'll see. NC State, man, what a win. What a much-needed win. We haven't talked about NC State a lot this football season, and CJ Bailey and the boys get it done. Their offense, they did this through explosive plays constantly throughout the night against Tech's defense. So good for NC State. Good job to the podcast 129 boys calling this one out before it even happened. Tyler, you got anything on this?
Also didn't really watch this game too much necessarily, but I do agree with you. I don't think Georgia Tech was necessarily a top 10 team in the country. I think their schedule was favorable. I think we overreacted to the Clemson win early in the year to give them this ranking because that was really supposed to be their big moment, and that obviously hasn't panned out. So, but I think that Georgia Tech is still competent. I think they control their own destiny. So, not giving up on them making the playoff, I think it's still very live. But you guys really are the ones that called this game. I was on Georgia Tech, but good job, fellas.
Hunter?
Yeah, Jake, we've had this one circled since July and August, man. This was always going to be the tricky spot for a team we were high on. But man, defense is optional in this game. This is probably the most fun game I went back and watched last night as far as points go. A good 48-36 game. But never in any world should a quarterback throw for 408 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then rush for another 103 and score 2 more on the ground and lose.
Especially that quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, we all love Haynes King here, but the guy had 400 yards passing. That shows how bad NC State's defense is. But I know I just gave a shout out to Kevin Jennings for playing banged up. CJ Bailey literally was having assistants walking during this game on the sidelines, and then he would get out there and just sling the rock. And then when it came to time for quarterback run, they just brought in somebody else. But that guy's a true warrior. 2 warrior quarterbacks. I'm going to just go through. Jake, you brought up the point about how many points Georgia Tech's given up, and I kind of hinted at this. I said there was another team later that we're going to talk about that if they try to play from behind and they got to sling it all around the yard, they're just not going to be able to come to the success that they want. When we're talking about Vandy, obviously I'm talking about Georgia Tech here. That's not their game. Their game is ground and pound, get you to 3rd and short, pick up the yards, and just hold on to the ball, score 27 to 30 points, and call it a day. Not giving the opposing team many opportunities here. They gave up 20 to Colorado. Now, granted, they did turn the ball over 3 times in the minus territory. So, Clemson gave up 21. Wake Forest gave up 30. Virginia Tech 20. Duke 18, which I think is very good. But Duke gave up after, the first turnover that they had. And then obviously gave up 48 to NC State. But the biggest difference between the NC State game and the other 3 is that they started out in front in all 3 games. And once they get out in front, they're so hard to beat. And they just had to play from behind and never could ever catch up in this game. And shout out to Dave Dorn and NC State looking for bowl eligibility here. With that said, I don't think there's a lot of difference between Georgia Tech and BYU, especially not in strength of schedule or strength of record. I don't think either one of the strength of schedules or records are good, and them dropping from 8 to 17. I think it's piss poor. I still think they're a good team, but I would like to go over the ACC championship odds right now. Who do you think the favorite is?
The favorite, probably Louisville.
Oh, yeah, probably Louisville.
It's Duke, plus 240.
Wow.
Duke has
favorite.
Yes, Duke has 1 conference loss, and they hold a lot of the tiebreakers. Georgia Tech's plus 320, Louisville's plus 350, Virginia's plus 380, and then there's a big drop off to SMU and Pittsburgh. But this thing's wide open, fellas, and I genuinely think if Georgia Tech makes the ACC championship game, that I know the identity in Brent Key in big time games. They just don't lose them. So I'm not selling my stock on them. But man, what a game. I still think there's a path for them to go 11-1, 10-2 is probably the most reasonable outcome, but they still got Pitt at home. That's not going to be an easy test at all. So we'll see what happens for the Yellow Jackets moving forward.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's it for our main games. Oh, no, we got one more. One more. We'll be quick on this one because both teams are soft as shit, and you can't convince me that either one of these teams – why in the hell did we think that either one of these teams were playoff teams? They're both soft. Their offenses can't do anything. Dylan Raiola, like, I've tried to hang in there with this guy. I know he got hurt, but he just doesn't – there's nothing special about him, and there's nothing special about either one of these offenses, in my opinion. USC won in the trenches, which ultimately led them winning the game. I don't think USC is a top 12 team, and I think, if they go 10-2, they might sneak in, but I don't believe that they're a top 5 team in the Big Ten, or just I don't think they're playoff worthy. There is a path they do that, but I have a lot of disgust in both of these teams personally. That's all I got on this.
Just want to throw this out there. I've been saying how ass Dylan Raiola is, so going to take my flowers on that shit. He is so terrible. So sorry you got hurt, bro. That does suck. Never wish injuries on anybody, but damn, when you're healthy, you are still ass. Anyways, continue.
All right. No, I thought this was a big win for Southern Cal. I know that this year I've had a big Oklahoma problem, but I've had a Southern Cal problem since Matt Barkley was there in 2011. So this was a big deal for me. I cannot say with ultimate confidence that they were a surefire lock to win this game if Dylan Raiola stays in for 4 quarters, because Nebraska gave up and it was just ugly whenever Raiola went out. But I think this is a big win for USC for 2 reasons. One, because they won in the trenches and they won with defense. Jaden Maiava was 9 of 23 with multiple turnovers in this game, and they still found a way to win. And by far his worst game of his career. And secondly, they found a way to win on the road in the Big Ten. They have not been able to do that against quality competition. And yes, I know Nebraska is not some powerhouse, but they are 6-3. They're not. It's not like you're playing Purdue. That was the only road win that USC had in the Big Ten and the time travel zone up to this point was against Purdue this year. So I had concerns against Notre Dame, and I think there was another game, Illinois earlier this year. So I think it's a big testament that, yes, I know that injuries happen, but USC going on the road and the time difference and getting a win, and it wasn't in an offensive way. It was in a defensive way. I think that's a big confidence booster for them. And now they just got to take care of business against Northwestern on Friday, and that Oregon game in a few weeks in Eugene is going to be massive.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Well, now that is it for our main games. We got a little quick hitters here. Utah rolls against Cincinnati. Me and Hunter laid the number on Saturday night after they made the band list. They are officially off of the band list after covering the 10 points at home on Saturday night. They rolled 45-14 and got rewarded for it last night in the rankings. Moving on to the next one, I'm just going to go through these and we can talk about them all at the end as we need to. Texas Tech goes on the road to Kansas State. Kansas State played a great first half. I thought they were in it, and the Texas Tech did what they do. They pulled away in the second half and got that offensive going off of a few Avery Johnson turnovers. They roll 43-20. Virginia goes on the road to Cal. Thought that this was a sleepy spot for Virginia, but they find a way to keep rolling and stay undefeated in ACC play. They win 31-21 and are the number 1 ranked team in the ACC as it stands right now. And then Georgia goes to Jacksonville, meets up with the Gators in Jacksonville with an interim head coach. Very, very good game. This game always produces, regardless of how good or how bad each team is going into this game. It always produces because it's just that big of a rivalry, and I thought it was great. Hunter, I have a question to start this off. Was it a catch, in your opinion?
That's a great question, and I wish I could have been able to tell you that I had a chance to sit there and watch the review the entire time on the big board. Unfortunately, there was an unforeseen circumstance at that time at the stadium. So I didn't get to watch it all, but I go back and watch it on YouTube, and I did see it on replay a time or two. And ultimately, I think it's just whatever they ruled it on the field, you couldn't overturn it. So if they would have ruled it a catch, I think it would have stayed a catch.
Yeah.
And I think if they ruled it incomplete, it should have stayed incomplete. And honestly, I think it's hard to tell because when I originally looked at it, I was like, yeah, that hit the ground first, or the nose of the football hit the ground first. But then I've also looked at him like, well, maybe the guy's forearms caught it. I like truthfully cannot tell. And either way, I think it was just whatever was going to be ruled on the field. However, Jake, was it a fumble? Did Lagway fumble the football? There was a play where he stretched out and he only had one arm out and the ball hit the ground before anything else in his body.
Yeah, that was the biggest bunch of. Sorry, it took me a minute to that set on my head. That was 100% a fumble. I was losing my shit during that because there's no way. I get the catch because the thing about the catch, whatever they had, like you said, Hunter, whatever the call they had on the field, they were going to have to go with because the two angles they were showing, one from one sideline, one from the other, both contradicted each other, whatever. And one side showed that it was a catch. Like that's what it looked like. The other side didn't. And I knew, I was like, they're going to have to keep it. What with the call on the field, that was an obvious fumble to me. I don't understand it. I thought the refs missed a lot of calls in that game, both sides, not just for Georgia. I'm not complaining. Both teams kind of got hosed in a lot of ways from a ref's perspective. But yes, that was 100% a fumble to me.
Yeah, I also agree. And then the other thing, I didn't know that a quarterback could exaggerate a snap on a hard count. That was the stupidest thing. And honest to God, like in the stadium, when they showed it on a replay, you couldn't hear over the mic what number the referee said. So I didn't even know until I was texted you. I was texting you during the game, like, dude, did they give an explanation on TV? I thought that was pretty bad. I do got to say one thing. I had one of the best in-game experiences of all time. The Pouncey twins were sitting in the box right above us. The Maurice and Marcus Pouncey. They played at Florida with Tim Tebow. They both played like 10 plus years in the NFL. And dude, they were the rowdiest Florida fans. But like, so they were just the entertainment outside because like part of that game was boring. Like it was 10-10 at halftime. And them being behind us, like throwing popcorn up and like just talking trash, but like being respectful about it. That made the game so much more entertaining. I just had to say that on here. There were so many other things that happened that night that I didn't get the chance to really tell anybody about that. But yeah, I sat right in front of the Pouncey twins at the Georgia-Florida game. And it was really cool. As far as the other three games, Utah, Jake and I are just, last week he straight up said, Utah's banned for life. Those are the exact words Jake used. And I said, they're just banned for the rest of the season, right? You're like, no. Saturday night at 10 o'clock. Hunt, you got 5 minutes to lock in Utah with me. Drugs. Big win for the Red Raiders over Kansas State. And then the Cal-Virginia game was really a 3-point game. Virginia made it look with an absolute disgusting backdoor cover against Cal this week. And I think they're just playing fraudulent this entire time, and they're going to get got at some point, being the Cavs. So that's what I have on the quick hitters.
Good stuff. How are you on the quick hitters?
I'm good.
Awesome. All right. And with that was the Week 10 recap. Now we're going to move forward to the Week 11 preview. And if you guys are good with it, this is the biggest matchup. We can talk a little bit about this one if we need to. But other than that, we can just go and give our scores and then get to the best part of the episode, which is best bets, lockbox, triple option, all that jazz. So I'll start with this one. The number it's the same feeling as Utah versus Cincinnati last week. I have faded Texas Tech a lot this year, but this might be one of those spots where it's like I know they're at home, but they shouldn't be 10-point favorites. So I'm going to close my eyes and take Texas Tech. I think they roll here. I think their defense stands out and they find a way to keep number 47, his legs neutral in this one. So I'm going to go with the Red Raiders here, 38-21.
I'm going with BYU. I think that they can get the job done. Not only do I think they cover, I think they win it. I like their run game against this Texas Tech defense. And I'm going to take it 34-31.
Awesome. And I think, Hunter, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think that's where me personally, I know me and Tyler obviously disagree with this, but I think that this is where Texas Tech's defense and that front seven is really going to show how good they are and elite they are. So that's what I'm looking at in this one. I think Texas Tech wins in the trenches big time on Saturday.
Yeah, so I really think that this game comes down to that, Jake. Is Texas Tech going to play their game in the trenches, or is BYU going to make you play their game? Because that's how BYU's been undefeated. They're not a flashy team, not airing it out. They're just like yeah, we're going to get ahead. We're going to make you play our game. We're going to run it for 4 yards a pop, and that's going to be that. So I will say I don't think BYU has a chance to win if they don't average a little over 3 yards per pop here, probably 4 yards per pop. If they don't get to that number, I don't think there's a chance that they win. I don't think they can put it solely in the arm of Bear Bachmeier to win this game, but LJ Martin can go off. He's a really good running back in the Big 12 for BYU, and then Bear Bachmeier can use his legs where he needs to. So very interested to see how – I mean, that's the biggest thing right there is Texas Tech front seven versus the BYU run game. The last time BYU lost a game by more than 7 points or 8 points was November of 2023. It's been a long time. They've won a lot of games. Yeah, I mean, they started like this last year. Kalani Sitake, man, probably one of the most underrated coaches in the FBS here at BYU. But yeah, so they don't lose by big margins often. And then also on top of that, Texas Tech is playing their 6th or 7th straight game in a row, and BYU's coming off a bye. I mean, this just smells like BYU to cover or to win, honestly. Like if you're just looking at a blind resume here. But Jake, you said it, man. This just smells like Utah, Cincinnati to me as well. I'm going to roll with the Red Raiders 37-21 to get the job done in Lubbock.
Good deal. On to the next one. We got Texas A&M traveling to Missouri. Sneaky spot. For me, this is a must-win for Missouri, but with Zollers coming in at quarterback, Missouri not looking up to the same level that they were playing at earlier on in the year. Mizzou also coming up. I think both of these teams are coming off of bye. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I think A&M wins here. I think this is a spot where Missouri kind of hangs, but it's a hang where they're down 2 scores for majority of the game and they keep that margin. But ultimately don't have enough to contain. I think that it's a very intriguing matchup between that Missouri front seven against Texas A&M offensive line because Missouri, that's the strength of their team in general. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly Marcel Reed can get the ball out of his hands and escape pockets and make plays with his legs. So I think A&M wins here. I'm going to go 31-20 A&M.
I also think that A&M gets the job done here. I think that they are playing good football, and Missouri's just not, especially Bo Prabula being out. You can only rely on Ahmad Hardy so much. I think it's close, but I think A&M ends up covering in the end. I'll go 35-24 A&M.
I hear you. So Bo Prabula obviously out. I think that was a big reason why Ahmad Hardy had a lot of success early on is because you had to factor in quarterback run with Prabula. Obviously don't have to do that now. With Zollars in, I've seen that Texas A&M can go on the road and win these types of games, but I think Missouri's going to keep it close, fellas. This line's only 7 for a reason. It opened up at 5.5, been bet up to 7.5, so I'm going to meet them in the middle here at 6. I'm going to go A&M 27, Mizzou 21. Just too much explosiveness from the A&M offense that gets it done.
Yeah, I agree. On to the next one. This might be my favorite matchup of the week. Number 9.
100%.
Yeah, and Dan Lanning traveling cross country to Iowa to take on Kirk Ferentz and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Iowa is now in the top 25, ranked at number 20. Oregon 6.5-point favorites in this one. I would love nothing more than to sit here and take Iowa and say that they're going to win. And I feel like the young adolescents, better gambler in me and sports picker in me would take Iowa. But I can't do it because I'm not going to be the guy that takes Iowa and Oregon wins 31-6. I do see a very, very possible path that after Oregon just got ranked at number 9, maybe lower than they wish they thought that they should have been. They go into Iowa on Saturday and absolutely stomp Iowa. And I think they're going to win this game in general through explosive plays offensively. Whereas Iowa, those are going to be got at a premium. So I'm going to take Oregon in this one. I think I'm going to go with a score of 24-9. I think they roll here. I really do.
I also think that they get the job done. I'm not going to go that wide of a margin, but I think Oregon will be ready. I think Dan Lanning will have the fellas amped up and ready to put the kickoff of this one. I'm going to go Oregon wins this one 28-13.
Yeah, I think Iowa has a real chance of winning this game. The weather conditions are going to be in their favor. I don't think there's going to be a lot of slinging the ball down the field for Oregon because I do believe in the Iowa defense. However, it's just going to come down to the Iowa offensive line for me. Obviously, they are just such a 99% run team here. So if they can do the Iowa football, hold on to the ball and, Mark Gronowski get his legs going and, maybe a little bit of Kinnick magic happens, force a turnover or two there. But I cannot pick Iowa to win this game. I do want to pull the trigger on it really bad, but I'm not going to do it because, like Jake said, there is 100% chance here that Oregon wins 34-9, 34-6, and it's just a blowout. And with that, definitely being in play, I can't pull the trigger on the Hawkeyes, but I do think they keep it close. I think they keep it within the number here. Give me Oregon 23, Iowa 17.
Good stuff, Hunt. All right, and that was it for the preview of the week. I'm going to be honest. I kind of like the template we have for this when we do one episode a week where we go through the recap or just the main news. Like one week we did coach firings. As kind of the first and 10, and then we go into the recap, talk a little bit, and then kind of quickly go through, and then we get to the best part of the whole week. And the reason we do the show, the lockbox, the triple option, Saturday shockers. I am the worst lockboxer in the entire world. All right, I need to stick to hotboxing, I guess, Tyler. So here's the lockbox. I'll start off. And this is the most – I'm so down bad that I have Auburn, coachless Auburn, and Chapel Bill on my lockbox. That's how down bad I am. Tar Heels have started to figure things out as of late. And I'm not saying this just world beat or whatever, but they should have beat Cal. They should have beat Virginia. They lost by 1 point. And they got a good win last week. I forgot who they played. Maybe I'll have to look it up, whatever. But now they got Stanford going cross country on the road to Chapel Hill, and they're favored by 7 points. I just think the cross country thing, Belichick, they're fighting for bowl eligibility. I think they roll here. That offense is starting to put up points, and maybe Bill Belichick's starting to figure things out on the college surface, and is kind of buying himself another year there, which is fun. I think it's good for North Carolina. It's good for football to see that kind of thing with Bill Belichick. Tulane on Friday. I have 2 Friday night plays. Tulane going on the road to Memphis. Memphis is the top-ranked G5 team right now. They were in the playoff picture. And I just think that Sumrall here is not only fighting for a playoff spot in the G5 spot, but he's fighting for one of these big-time jobs that are open right now. And I think that Hunter Retzlaff, great quarterback. And I think he's an experienced enough guy to go into Memphis on Friday night and keep the game close. And I think that Memphis, there's going to be a lot of points in this game, and it's going to be a 1-score game at the end. So I have Tulane covering this. Auburn, golly, I can't believe I have them on there. Auburn, gosh, I'm tripping. Who do they play this week? I'm so sorry.
Vandy
going on the road to Vandy. And one thing about us, we talked about this a lot. We love a team who is coming off of a coach firing. And I specifically love Auburn because I think we've talked about it all year. They are a 10-2. I think Brandon Walker said it first on SR Rough, and I said I've used it a lot. They're a 10-2 roster with a 6-6 quarterback. 6-6 quarterbacks. Sorry, Hunt. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. That was a tough spot for your boy on Saturday night. But that was the worst football game I've ever watched. Auburn plus 7.5 going on the road to Vandy. I think Vandy wins the game, but I think Auburn keeps it close just because of their defense. If they can find a way to produce any offense, they're going to be in a position to win on Saturday night. And it'll be awesome because Hugh Freeze for the past 3 years has said, what? Go ahead, Hunt.
Jake, we lost you for a second. You lost connection for a second. So you just restart with the after the worst game of all time.
Yeah, worst game of all time. I think if they can find a way to put up any kind of offensive success, they're going to be able to cover here and keep it close and potentially win the game. It's crazy to say that they're going to go into Vandy and cover, but I thought this would have been a little bit more on the point spread at least. And it would be perfect because Hugh Freeze is a guy who for the past ever since he's been at Auburn, he said, we're so close. We're so close. We're so close. And they're about to break through on Saturday night with an outright win in Nashville. That would just make my week. Another Friday night play, USF minus 13.5 at home against UTSA. UTSA coming off of a huge win last week, an ass whooping, if you will, of Tulane. And I think that USF at this point, it's must win. They've been the G5 team for the majority of the year. They've been one of those top 2 or 3 teams. And I think it's a must win for them. And Golish, he's another coach that needs to impress as the year goes on, as he's another guy that's probably going to get a mid-tier SEC job, if you ask me. He's in the mix for these coaching jobs. So I think Byron Brown and the boys roll against UTSA on Saturday or Friday night. And then my last play, Washington, Wisconsin, under 45.5. I had it pulled up earlier, but Wisconsin, when's the last time they put up over 10 points? They put up zeros maybe 2 or 3 times this year. They don't put up points. Washington going on the road. Washington, look, boys, with Jedd Fisch and the boys got a huge few weeks coming up. We don't need to empty the clip here. We don't need to get anybody hurt, get any key injuries because rivalry week, Hunter, it's a freaking playoff game. All right. That's all I'm saying. I think Washington, they score the number's 3. All right. They score 3 points, they win. But I think they win, like a 24-3 game. We have a huge couple of weeks coming up for the Huskies here. We're not going to get too crazy offensively. We're gonna play them straight up defensively, not give up a lot of points. Wisconsin can't score. Give me the under 45.5 in Washington and Wisconsin. Hunter, you go.
I'm a little concerned because 4 of the plays that you just talked about, I love a lot. So yeah, that's concerning with your 11 games below 500 record there. But I will take Washington, Wisconsin first half under on Saturday with you. Regardless here, Mississippi State first half plus 3.5 against Georgia. This is just a system play at this point, followed up by Georgia second half minus 3.5 on the spread. That's what it says on FanDuel right now. So that's what we're going to roll with. And, yeah, this is just a system play. I think Georgia's got a pretty big trap spot this weekend. Mississippi State can score points fast if they need to, and they can score it well sometimes. If you don't show up, it's a sneaky spot, 11 a.m. kick. It's a what's the word I'm looking for here? Oh, yeah, they play Georgia plays Texas next week. They just finished up with a rivalry game against Florida, emotional win. So sneaky spot, but I do think the Dogs get it done. But I think it'll be the typical down at halftime, tied at halftime, come out in the second half and get the job done. Moving on, I'm going to take I got 2 teasers back to back here. I got Iowa plus 13 and under 47. I think this is just one of those you got to hold your nose and pray on. I think Iowa is going to make Oregon play their game. We've seen what Dante Moore has done against a difficult defense. And the offense just has looked a little sketchy to me. They haven't been trying to put up style points at all. So I don't think it's going to get out of hand. And so for that reason, I'm going to take Iowa plus 13 and under 47 in the whole game. Moving on, there was a big false report this week that Mike Locksley got fired at Maryland. I can confirm that Mike Locksley is still the coach at Maryland. Now, he might not be at the end of November, but he is right now. Malik Washington, I think he's got a lot of promise at quarterback. I know they're on a 4 or 5 game losing skid right now, but I do not think Rutgers is a touchdown better. I'm pretty sure this game is in College Park, but regardless, I don't think it's going to get out of hand, and I think both of these offenses can score a lot, and I don't love the defenses for either team, so I'll take Maryland plus 6.5 at over 52.5, and then my favorite play on this slate, I stole this concept from Mr. Jake Stinchcomb, taking a touchdown parlay with a big money line here. Give me Jaden Baugh, the Florida Gators running back, to run one in against Kentucky, parlayed with Texas Tech to beat BYU. Don't even got to cover, just got to win. Plus 105, I think that's great value there, and those are my 5 best bets.
So here we go. I like West Virginia to cover the spread against Colorado. Colorado is absolutely atrocious, especially if Juju Lewis starts again. That plus 20 line, Cal versus Louisville. I don't know. I'm on that Cal train, so I'm going to take them to cover that 20 mark. UNLV, I've got them covering against Colorado State. Colorado State, ass. Hawaii going to San Diego State. I believe that Hawaii definitely covers. I think they win the damn game outright. Washington, Wisconsin. Wisconsin, again, ass. I've got Washington taking care of that minus 11 and getting the job done by at least 2 touchdowns.
Good stuff, Tyler Vaughn. All right. Moving on to the triple option. God, I'm sorry. I have ice in my mouth. That's very unprofessional of me. Triple option, plus 550. Starting out. Hawaii, plus 7.5 at midnight on Saturday night against San Diego State. San Diego State, they're the number 1 team in the Mountain West right now, correct?
Correct. This is the podcast 129 play of the week.
When Hawaii plays at home, they're the podcast 129 play of the week. Bottom line. Then we go to the middle there. Hunter kind of hinted at it in his lockbox. Maryland and Rutgers over 58.5. It's a Big Ten game. Apparently, the Big Ten forgot how to play defense. Both of these offenses can put up points. I've watched Rutgers maybe 2 or 3 times this year, and each time they have looked like 2019 LSU offensively. It's just unreal how their offense can put up points at times. So we're going over in this one. This is a fun one. BYU plus 10 against Texas Tech. We're going to keep them, take them to keep it within the number on Saturday, and that's the triple option for you this week. Moving on to Saturday Shockers. Me personally, that it was very hard to find a Saturday Shocker this week. Maybe it's just me. But my Saturday Shocker, and I'm picking Texas A&M to win the game, but I think it'd be shocking. A&M goes down with Missouri with the backup quarterback. Just the way that Missouri has played lately, I feel like that would be that game's worthy of being a Saturday Shocker. So I got Missouri at plus 200.
I just want to give a shout out to Jake Stinchcomb. This guy's hit 3 Saturday Shockers in a row. Guy can't hit a lockbox bet to save his life, but you give him a
We
plus.
make up for it, baby. We make up for it.
You give this guy plus money underdog, he's going to cash it. So I'm going to just read these off for you. It was 3 weeks ago. He picked Arizona State to beat Texas Tech. And then 2 weeks ago, he picked Houston to beat Arizona State. Just straight up, just turned his back on his darling. And then last week, he picked NC State to beat Georgia Tech. So all 3 of those plus 200 or greater. So shout out to Jake on that. I'm taking Wake Forest. They just got blown out by Florida State by like 49 points. They play Virginia this week. Virginia's just been playing with fire. Wake Forest has proven that they can compete with some of these teams in the ACC. They beat SMU, should have beaten Georgia Tech. So I don't think the number's not too big on this one. It's plus 6.5. I don't think it'll get out of hand. So we'll see. Jake, I agree with you. It was very hard to find a Saturday Shocker. There was not a lot I loved out there. I don't really love this one, but it was the one I felt the need to put on here. And Virginia might just be on Saturday Shocker watch the rest of the year. So, Tyler.
And to round things out, again, very hard to pick a Saturday Shocker, and that's how I ended up with Georgia State being my pick. They're going to beat the Chanticleers out of Coastal Carolina. So give me the Panthers at plus 240 money.
Good stuff. So those are our best bets of the week, our Saturday Shockers, triple option, our lock box. And with that, Tyler, you got anything?
I'm good.
Good stuff. Appreciate you, Tyler. That was a good episode. Hunter, hope you get to feeling better, man. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hunter, you got anything before we get out of here?
You know I got to say it. Guys, there's things bigger than football out there. Hug your loved ones. God first, God bless, and Jesus one. Have a good night.
Absolutely. So as always, guys, if you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify right now, please go subscribe to our YouTube channel. We appreciate that, and watch it if you want to. Hunter does a great job putting together our slides each week. Puts a lot of work into that. So it's very appreciative. We would be very appreciative if you guys want to tune in and watch us. And if you're watching us right now, you can listen to us also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Excuse me. Next time we talk to you guys, we'll be recapping week 11, previewing week 12. These weeks just keep going by, guys. Embrace the moment. Enjoy it. Watch as much ball as you can. There's so much ball going on right now. I can't keep up with it. We got college hoops. We got NBA hoops. We got NHL. We got the NFL. We got college football. Everything is happening right now. I'm here for it, and I hope you guys are too. We appreciate you guys on the podcast.